Hi, and welcome everyone for this webinar on how to optimize Office 365 licensing and Microsoft Teams adoption. I'm Cyril Couret, Product Manager here at ShareWeb, and I have with me today Zach Terry, Senior Manager at Brainstorm. Hi, Zach, how are you?
Doing good. Thank you, Cyril.
Great. Thank you. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
A few housekeeping items, guys. If you have to go, you're going to receive the recording in a couple of days. Also, you will receive the slides of the webinar. If you already want to grab them, they are in the handout part of GoToWebinar, so you can already download those slides. Let's speak a bit quickly about ShareWeb before we jump in a subject. So ShareWeb actually is your value-added cloud solution provider. We are in business for over 20 years now. We have over 700 employees with a large network of 6,000 partners and over 60,000 clients. ShareWeb, it's about simplifying the cloud by bringing to SMB actually best-in-class applications. So we provide Office 365 collaboration tool, Dynamics, Azure, security solution, backup, and infrastructure as a service. So ShareWeb, we are an extension of your IT department. We are providing support on those solutions and migration to help you actually modernize your business. We have been a pioneer in the cloud with our hosted Exchange solution back in, I think it was 2005, actually. So we migrate a lot of customers from on-premise. Their experience for those end users, they were actually the same. You know, you connect to your Outlook client, you get your email, but in the back, you know, the platform was really a great upgrade in terms of security, reliability, getting your solution always available. Since 2012, we have been a very big player with Microsoft Office 365, #1 in Canada, top 5 in US. We became a leader in productivity and cloud solutions. We have migrated and support a lot of clients. And from this experience, what we learned is that actually training wasn't considered as a big part of the project. So we've seen a lot of new customers getting Office 365, a bunch of great features, and actually no one trained them, no one look at user adoption. So when we realize that, we say, okay, we need to add that to our portfolio. So we look at a bunch of e-learning solution, and the one that really catch our attention was the one from Brainstorm called QuickHelp. That actually really, it's more than e-learning, it's a change management. It's really tackle these things on how to get user to adopt the solution, why they should adopt, and so on and so on. So we added QuickHelp from Brainstorm to our portfolio last year. And today we have Zach with us that's going to drive us a bit about how to actually use QuickHelp to drive adoption, but also how to optimize your licensing through the application. Zach, the mic is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. Cyril, can you hear me all right?
Yep, all good.
Sounds great. Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction, Cyril. I appreciate that. You know, really in today's webinar here in this meeting, we really want to focus on something that Cyril hit on there, which is there was an early need for training that many people were looking for. But as the market is changing and ever growing, what we've really discovered is that really focusing more on change management and more purely on adoption of the technology is really where we want to put our heavy focus into. And so that's what we'll focus on today, is the importance of those things, what QuickHelp is, and then be able to see and look into the O365 usage inside of your environment in your organization with the user journey that each employee is going to be going through. And then we'll also demo the platform and also you have some Q&A. Feel free while we're going through the slides, if anyone has any questions or anything, I wouldn't mind, you know, kind of opening it up for interruptions. Once we get to the demo, we'll flow through the demo completely and then do a Q&A of what you've seen in the demo after the demo. So just wanted to kind of set the landscape there while we're going through this for what kind of interaction we'd hope to have there while we're going through the slides. So Let me switch here. So the biggest thing that we like to start out with is, why is change management and adoption so important? When we look at what training is, training is a pretty loosely used term out there. But if we really pull that apart, really training is a one-time event. And it just is something that happens either, instructor led on site for a day, or, a 1-hour video, or whatever that might be. But when we're asking people to do something different in their work environment outside of what they're used to doing, it's a really uncomfortable change process for people to have to go through, especially when they feel really comfortable with what they have, right? And so helping somebody change what they're doing, what they're used to, and hopefully implementing something that's going to help them in a new status quo level performance, that's an uncomfortable process, and that process takes time. And so that's why change management and focusing on adoption are so important, is because that the vision, the plan that you have for your organization and why you want to put the technology in place, it really is we want to make sure that we focus on in the right areas, so that the efforts you guys are putting towards your employees, they're going to realize the most success that they can. And when we're focusing on that, we really want to make sure that we think a lot about why are we doing this? Why are we focusing on Teams, or why are we focusing on OneDrive? We can talk a lot about what things are and how they work, but if we really want to inspire that change in your organization, and we really want to make sure that everybody feels like they're being empowered through that process by you guys as leadership, then they need to understand why things are happening. And so we want to talk a lot about that. Also, one size doesn't always fit all. In order to really make that long-term plan be realized, that whole model of change and that change management and adoption is going to be something that's specific to each one of your organizations. And we want to make sure that we focus that shift on individual behavior, because you guys are giving Microsoft to your employee base, and if we're not focusing on the end user and their performance, and if they don't actually end up adopting it, then the implementation of that technology is really kind of a failure almost at that point. So we want to make sure that we see success all around, not only from an investment side with the technology, but also on the user side. So, what happens without a dedicated change partner helping you scale that change across your organization? Office 365 can obviously present some challenges. And, we see here some statistics that are kind of industry wide out there when it comes to technology. $722 per user spent on other software that's already included in Office 365. Low adoption rates, even after some training classes, high fatigue of people that are resistant to that change, right? And also just overall $30 billion wasted on unused software in the US. So, in order to avoid falling into the statistical base of what we see here, we really want to make sure that we give you the tools that are going to empower your users to get through that fatigue phase, make sure that they're going above 12% adoption, not wasting the invested software that you guys are giving them, and then also hopefully identifying inside of QuickHelp duplicate applications that Microsoft already has that you can eliminate in your environment. So what's QuickHelp? It's essentially going a number of things. The easiest way to put it is a change and adoption enablement platform. I'll show you here that there's going to be a lot of content and a lot of videos and other types of assets that the users are going to consume, but there's also a lot of other components in there, like the communications resources and assigned content that's targeted, that's specific to the groups. And then really what we'll end on is the powerful reporting that tracks the progress. We're really a data-driven company at the end of the day as far as what we're giving to you guys as a value to help see what's happening on the user level. And so part of that user journey that they'll be going through is based around skill paths. And I'll show these in the demo, but we have dozens and dozens of skill paths all centered around Office 365. And we have quite a few of them that are specific to Teams, right? And so as Teams is really coming in hot and taking over Skype, obviously, and it's a really big and powerful tool, we make sure that we have all of the updated content. We're updating everything in QuickHelp twice a month to stay on track with Microsoft's updates that they're constantly rolling out too. And so we're really there to drive the user to adopt the tools, but then also making sure that all of your users are up to date with all the changes that are being made inside of QuickHelp. And then, as I mentioned earlier, tracking is such a big thing. If we don't understand what the users are doing, and if we're moving the needle on how they're behaving within Microsoft, then we have no idea if we're on course, if our ship is on course to hit its destination. We don't know if we can how to make the adjustments left or right in order to stay true. And so we'll talk a lot about how tracking is such an important part of the whole process when we're talking about change and adoption with your user base. And then lastly, these are really common statistics that we see that come out of QuickHelp when organizations implement it into their environment. You can see there right with Teams, 134% increase in Teams usage. I'll share a few things here, but what essentially we find that when people are able to feel empowered and feel that they're learning about something is applicable to their job, and they're able to find shortcuts, and they're able to find features and syncs and things that make their jobs easier, they jump all over that. And that's what we're doing, is we're helping them identify what those are and where they can be focusing on. So to talk about, making the most of your Microsoft licensing, we don't want to look at, there's two ways to look at it. You can say, hey, we've got maybe a bunch of E3 and E5 licenses, and people aren't really using those licenses. They're not really using all of the tools that come with them. Let's downgrade. The other way to really look at it, and it's a more productive way to look at it, is to say we have a bunch of people that are using E3s and E5s, and they're not really using the applications in there. How can we make sure that we give our employees every opportunity to know what those applications are and how powerful they are and what they can do for them in their work, and in turn help perform more for the company? So that's what we want to do, is we want to make sure that we drive these increases in usage inside of Microsoft so that every user is really focusing on optimizing the licenses that they have access to, and that you as an organization are realizing the investment made for your employee base with those licenses. So let me jump over to the demo and start to show you guys exactly how the users are going to be interacting in the environment. Are there any open questions right now that anyone wants to ask?
Yes, there is a question. It's perfect timing. Can we load external content to this platform to push to employees?
Yes, absolutely. That's a good question, and I'm glad to bring that up now so that I don't forget to later. So as I go through this, you'll see that everything is delivered in the way of a skill path. So each one of these is a skill path. It's a topic of learning, and it's how the users are going to interact with the content. You guys have the ability to create your own skill paths and upload the content. It's very easy to do. You'll upload videos. You'll create test questions, surveys, assessments, whatever you would like to do, and it's a step-by-step process it's very simple to do. It doesn't really take an entire media lab and a team to be able to create custom content. And there's fantastic ways for you to use it. If you have products in your environment there at your company that you want everyone to be trained on, you can create short trainings for that. A skill path can be 5 minutes, or it can be 2 hours, whatever's sufficient for your training. Another fantastic way to use custom content is for your onboarding. If you have people that are coming in new to the company, obviously they're going to need to learn how to use the Microsoft tools. So you'd want to put them into the user journey within Microsoft, but you could also have them be assigned custom skill paths that you're creating that welcome them into the company, help them get an understanding of the organization. Maybe it's some job specific training, maybe some documents that they need to review, and some videos that they need to watch that are maybe more HR appropriate, and some compliance things. Whatever you guys wanted to create there, you can create a phenomenal onboarding structure for every new employee that's coming into the company. So a lot of really creative ways that custom content can be used there to answer that question. Cyril, were there any more?
No, we're good at this time. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So when a new user in your organization comes into QuickHelp, they're going to go through a series of a couple of questions that we call our intake survey. They're going to be questions like, do you work remote or do you work in an office? Do you travel or do you stay at the office? Are you working on a phone as well as your desktop? And we're kind of gathering these questions because there's a machine learning component that'll come into play a little bit down the road, where we can start to gather a profile of that user and understanding the type of work they do and how they do it, and then also looking at the content that they begin consuming. We will be able to, QuickHelp can start to suggest some content, much like when you're watching Netflix or YouTube. They can say, hey, here's some videos that you might like based off of what you've watched. So we can start to really engage the learning of that user down the road as we start to gather some of that information, which really is all specific around the user journey of the individual, and the specific learning of what you expect them to be doing, that's customized around their job. So after they go through that intake survey, this is where they're going to land. This is going to be a little bit of their kind of homepage dashboard, if you will. What you see here is each one of these skill paths has an assigned word there. So as a user, I have these 4 skill paths that I'm going to be expected to take. And a few of these, sorry, our demo environment doesn't update, but a few of these have due dates to them. And so as a new user, I might have 1 or 2 or however many weeks you decide to give them in order to complete that. So this is kind of where I'll be living as a user. Now to show you this, I'll jump into Microsoft Teams real quick and give you the construction of what this skill path is. So you can see that it's a little bit more than an hour long, right? And so instead of just allowing somebody to play a video for an hour and hoping that they catch and pick up and retain everything that's in there, we've broken it down into courses, and then inside of each course is going to be assets. And most of these assets are going to be short, little bite-sized videos. There's other types of assets I'll mention here in a moment, but the best part about these short little bite-sized videos is each one of them is its own kind of micro topic inside of Teams. And what's nice about this is as a user in your organization, I could be very, very busy in what I'm doing. And so it's going to be tough for me to block out an hour of time. But I might have 10 minutes before my next meeting starts, so I can jump in here into QuickHelp and I can watch a handful of videos, and each one of these is going to give me some little nice nugget of information that I might find either, that's cool, or I might have a bit of a wow moment in thinking I had no idea Teams was capable of that. Either way, I can watch just a handful of these videos and then find a way that I can start to implement them right away. So as they go through the learning, we're basically hoping and pushing to get them to start applying what they're learning right away. And if we can take those as busy people and learning something new, if we can take things in small bite-sized nuggets and apply them in small bite-sized nuggets, we're going to retain what's possible inside that technology and use it long-term at a far greater rate. Other things in here, as I mentioned, there's poll assessments, there's surveys, there's various types of things like that in here, but also there are these events. And this is basically a live learning event. And there's dozens of these all throughout QuickHelp that people can come in as part of the skill path, and they can register for a time that they want to attend. They would be a webinar just like we're on right now with somebody who's actually facilitating it and many people attending it. In this particular event, they would be talking about how to use Microsoft Teams. And so just another way that I can pick up those great little nuggets of information and open up my awareness and understanding of what is possible here, specifically within Teams. There's also Q&A after the webinar if I had questions that I really wanted to get answered from somebody who would know. So many different ways that we really drive the learning of the user and look at how we can influence somebody who's very busy in their environment to really learn something different and not feel like it's going to be a large burden on them to do that different thing. So we really have created a very user-friendly model there. Again, you can see that I have this assigned content here, but it's also going to show me what my, oh, that was an accident, sorry about that. It's actually going to also show what the upcoming events are that I can register for, what's popular in my organization. A lot of really good ways I can interact within QuickHelp. There's also some other good features here, especially the search bar, which you could almost kind of think of this like a knowledge base. If I was a new employee, maybe I'm a couple months down the road and I'm going to take a vacation, but I cannot remember how to set my out of office, I can come here and I can search out of office, and I can even find the specific video asset where it teaches me how to set my out of office. So this is a great way to also relieve a lot of help desk tickets as well, is by giving your employees not only the ability to learn the technology, but then a bit of a knowledge base and a search center for where they can find answers that they need to go to here within QuickHelp. So that's the user side of it. It's pretty straightforward and it's not overly complex. And we've created it that way so because we have, there's users on every end of the spectrum, some who are very tech savvy and some who are not. And so we don't want this to be overwhelming because Microsoft can feel overwhelming just by itself. So we've created this to be very easy to use, very easy to interact with, so that they can learn that through Microsoft, which is a little bit more complex. Now, as an admin inside the organization, this is where we're going to have visibility and insight into what all of the user base is doing, all of the employees and how they're performing and what they're doing. And as an admin, I can click here and I would see admin dashboard. Let me just show you the admin dashboard here. So if you click that admin dashboard, this would pop up. This would be what you would be seeing inside your organization. So initially you can see a lot of numbers and a lot of different things, and I can point out a couple of really nice, like this graph here. This graph shows a lot of information, but we have this communications bar over here that is our communications engine. What that does is it's sending out regular emails to all of the QuickHelp users, and it's saying things like, hey, you have a new skill path that's assigned to you, click this link to jump into it. Or if maybe they've got a due date that they've passed on a skill path, it's going to send an email to say, hey, here you've passed due on this particular skill path, here's the link, jump in and complete it. What we're doing is we're constantly and proactively driving that user back into QuickHelp to keep them focused on that user journey that you guys have constructed for them. So the green line popping up and down here is our emails being sent through the communications engine, and the yellow line is our assets that are being viewed. Okay, and what's cool to see is that the yellow line and the green line and the blue line, which are events registered, but they all coincide with each other. So as that communications engine is working, you can see that the user behavior inside of QuickHelp is engaging as well, and that the learning is continuing to go forward. Now, we also have, things that are like top searches. how people feel about things. Are they bookmarking particular assets that they felt very valuable that they wanted to be able to go back to, that in case they don't remember. There's also some gamification involved here. Points and badges are earned as users go through and complete the skill pass. This is a great thing. You can snapshot this once a week, send it out to the organization, and congratulate the top 10. Right, it spurs a lot of fun, competitiveness, and where, you know, like, hey, I really got to get to that top 10. I want to be on that weekly snapshot, and I want to be congratulated. So it really helps to drive, you know, the positive side of really pushing people forward into QuickHelp. Now, everything is as an admin, everything is managed here on this left-hand toolbar. Everything from, you know, bringing users in, creating the groups inside the organization to assign content to, so it's specific to them, the communications engine, and also skill paths. And this is where you're going to go through the process of creating that custom content, that question that was asked a little earlier. So everything is managed right here inside of QuickHelp. Now, when we're talking, you know, going back to earlier in this, when we're in the slides, when we're talking about why change and adoption is such a heavy focus of what we're doing here. And it's a heavy focus because we're trying to get the users to change the way that they're working within Microsoft, right? What we're seeing here is user behavior inside of QuickHelp. And user behavior inside of QuickHelp is not really always, that's not the goal. That's just the pathway to the goal, right? And so we don't want to just stop here with what we're seeing and say, hey, everybody's doing a fantastic job inside of QuickHelp. We hope that they're doing great within Microsoft. That really doesn't round out the goal of what we're after here in the destination. And so what we've done to really have insight into you know, the full end-to-end spectrum of things is we've brought in Microsoft Graph, and we've reported it here with Power BI dashboards that is in a very intuitive and easy to see fashion. So Microsoft Graph is essentially the ability to see the actual license activity of the users. So we can see not only are they active in it, but how are they using those? And this is really where we start to get a gauge on that needle moving forward in that behavior change, and to see if adoption is actually starting to happen. So with the overview here, we can see the different applications like OneDrive. And this left-hand bar are going to be QuickHelp users. The right-hand bar are other users. So that's people that don't have QuickHelp, or maybe they just haven't gone in and logged in and started using QuickHelp. But what we can see across the board is that more people, in this case, 99% of QuickHelp users are active inside of OneDrive versus 47% of non-QuickHelp users are active inside of OneDrive. So just baselining right here on this overview, we can see that we get a really good activity rate inside those applications when people use QuickHelp. But what if we, you know, in this Skype to Teams motion that we're all kind of going through right now, we really want to be focusing on Teams, and we have a lot of use case around what we're going to get from our users when they really adopt Teams into their environment and what they're getting out of it. But we want to see more than just 99% active. What are these 99% actually doing? So we can come up here to Teams, and we can now see a full breakdown of how users are actually using it. So you can see here, 382 total licenses, 349 of them are active. That is a very great adoption rate. And as you see down here in this bar chart, over time, the adoption rate has gone up, and basically now it's plateaued once we've reached a really high level of adoption. And so we can monitor what that adoption rate looks like. So for you guys implementing Microsoft into your organization, or if you already have it, once you implement QuickHelp, you'll be able to see how that needle is really going up, or that chart is moving up and to the right of people who are using it. Now we can also see excuse me, we can also see how people use it, everything from private chat, Teams chat, meetings, and phone calls. So we can break it down and see exactly how people are using Teams, not just the fact that the adoption is going up, but we can measure the various ways that they're using it. Now, what's interesting about this information here is that this shows very, very great adoption rates, right? But what if this didn't show anything good? What if, 6 months down the road after implementing QuickHelp, we only see 3, or let's say 34 active out of 382, and this bar chart is just flat as a board. It's really showing minimal levels of activity within teams. Well, that would obviously show that we're not getting a lot of Teams adoption. But the fantastic thing about having the graph reporting here is that it always gives you actionable data. That's the important thing, is whatever this shows, good or bad, it allows you to be able to go to your organization and work backwards and say, where are we missing? Did we communicate to the employee base properly? Did we set expectations right? Did we do our what's lacking on the employee level that we can shift? We can make an adjustment to that boat and make sure that we're following through to the destination that we're really aiming for. How do we move that rudder to make sure that we're moving forward? So that's what's really nice about graph reporting, is that it's always giving you very, very actionable data when we're talking about change management and driving adoption of the end user. The last thing I want to show you here is this value calculator. I won't spend too much time on here, but essentially to explain how not only can we measure what adoption starts to look like, now we can actually attribute some value to it, which is just, it's amazing when we're talking about software adoption. I don't know of anywhere else where you can actually see and consume in such an easy way the value of adopting that technology. So this net present value is something that was created by Forrester after Microsoft commissioned them to do, a lot of different data and research on Office 365 and adoption. So we took that Forrester research and the net present value, and it essentially surfaced it in this little calculator here. And is really what we're trying to do is take what the net present value is of each user, which is a dollar amount, and assign and really drive that forward and show what that value is. So as we take the total amount of users and drive them into this optimized category, which we've kind of benchmarked, saying this is what adoption is. They've used at least 4 of the Office 365 application, and they've used them each one of them at least 25 times. So that's really where we can start to attribute that NPV value score. And as we drive more into the optimized or adopted category, this estimated NPV bar drives forward. So as you guys implement QuickHelp into the organization, you will be able to watch as you get users into that adopted category, you'll be able to watch this blue line grow, and which is essentially, you kind of looking at closing an NPV gap score here, kind of like an ROI, really attributing value that's driven back to the organization because you've been able to make the users and all the employees more efficient and more productive with Microsoft technology that you've given them. Now, one thing that I kind of like to think of this as is this is just kind of a predictive indicator of performance, not necessarily numbers that you'd want to live and die by, but just something that's a snapshot of value to say, look at how fantastic the users in our organization are doing when it comes to Microsoft and how much value that's driving for the organization and for each of the individual end users or all of the employees. So this is graph data. This is really where we round out this whole conversation of why focusing on adoption and really helping users through the difficult change process of doing something new and learning multiple complex tools in their work environment is so important. We have to empower them through that process, and we have to make sure that they feel like the journey they're on is going to yield some kind of greater success at the end of that process than they're realizing now. And we see that as users go through QuickHelp, as they focus on their learning, and as we see the value in the value calculator and also the other specific applications, we see all of that needle moving forward on the end user success. As far as and that's the last area of the demo. And so really the biggest thing is, why should you focus on this? Why does this really actually make a big deal? And if we kind of look at a few of the value points, it's going to increase the value of your investment. Obviously, making them more productive and efficient in their jobs with technology is going to make the most of what you're giving them to help them there. Quicker and easier onboarding for new employees. Also identifying and canceling duplicate applications already found in O365. That was one thing I forgot to mention in the demo. Some of the different surveys and questions inside of QuickHelp will ask users, what other technology are you using inside your organization that is like this? And so you'll get users reporting to you saying, we use Slack, we use Google Hangouts, we use whatever that might be. You'll be able to find out what other applications are being used and get rid of that shadow IT. Empowerment tools like QuickHelp generate great job satisfaction. If your users feel like you're supporting them and you're focusing on their success, they will likely feel much more satisfied in their work. And allowing custom content is great for communication to the entire organization. And really, at the end of the day, this really allows you to fully track and measure what adoption truly is and what it truly looks like for your organization. And I think now we can definitely open this up to any Q&A, any questions that you guys might have, or anything more you're wondering about.
I did answer most of the question, but I would just take back some of them, that I think could be interesting for the audience. So let's say that your company, I'm going to summarize a couple of questions. Let's say your company decide, for example, to focus on Teams or OneDrive. Is there a way to actually assign content so the organization is going to move forward with the same, let's say, priority of the other organization?
Yeah, absolutely. As you go through and you're assigning the content, it's going to be done based around groups. And so you can create many different groups within the organization. You can have a group that is the entire company, and then you can also have smaller groups, which might be like based off of department, let's say. And so the assigned content that's going out can be specific to that group. So if you wanted every single person in the entire company to be focusing on, let's say, OneDrive, because you really need every single person to be utilizing that and everyone to be doing the same thing, you can assign it to the group that involves the whole entire company. Now, let's say that you had let's say finance, right? And you really wanted to focus them on some more advanced content within Excel. You can assign content that is specific to the finance group, so that they're getting that content and maybe not somebody else that's not at that point of how advanced they are within that. So you can customize who's getting the content, and you can make sure that it's maybe either a specific small group or the whole entire company.
And I think it's important to mention that you can customize the content too. So for example, here at ShareWeb for human resource, the way they did is that they create a user journey for the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and they actually assign content, so they create a path for new employees. Do you have other kind of HR best practice that you have seen, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, as far as what you just mentioned, you saw there in the beginning where my dashboard as a user, I had 4 skill paths assigned to me. Now, there's no way that I'm going to be able to fully understand the scope of Office 365 in 4 skill paths, right? And so part of that user journey and the best practice of how to help somebody through that process is looking at less is more. We don't want to have you guys assign your users 30 different skill paths and that's what they're expected to do. That's incredibly daunting, and people will feel like they just don't even know where to start. It's just too much. So starting with a couple, setting a time frame around that, like Cyril said, for 30 days, and then the next portion is another 3 or 4 skill paths that's for the following 30 days. So this is a phased rollout and phased assignment within what all of the employees are getting assigned to them, and what you want them to focus on first, and what's the next second phase, third phase, fourth phase, and so on.
Okay, so just like being very focused, let's say I'm a customer, I'm adding teams. What will be my best practice to get my end user actually to adopt teams in, let's say, 3 months time frame?
Yeah, good question. I think really to answer that question is you want to go to the very, very beginning of this whole thing, which is before users are getting any type of access to QuickHelp. One of the most important things is an initial communication plan to the organization about what's going to be happening. So, for example, and this communication should come from somebody high up in leadership, maybe a CEO or a CIO, and it's communication saying, either maybe you're new to Microsoft, let's say, you would communicate that Microsoft is going to be coming into their environment, and here are the benefits of what it's going to bring. Here's why we're doing this as an organization, and here's how it's going to help that particular employee in their job. Then introducing QuickHelp there in the same manner. And so in order to help us understand how to use Microsoft, we're giving you access to a tool called QuickHelp. QuickHelp is a learning platform that's going to help you understand the tools in a learn as you go model, so that you can find greater performance with Microsoft by going through the QuickHelp learning modules, and then setting expectations in that communication. As far as what employees are expected to do consuming QuickHelp, focusing on their Microsoft learning and so forth. So the communication plan before any of this is implemented is super, super important, so that the users understand what's coming and they understand why they're going to be expected to go through all of this. Then when that initial user journey is created, let's say specifically around Teams, that teams can just essentially be assigned as one of the first bits of content. You can have them focus specifically on Teams right out of the gate if you want. But to kind of answer your question about how do we make sure that people start adopting within the first 30 days, it's really going to begin before they even have access to QuickHelp, with a good communication plan, setting out and rounding out the benefits and the expectations of as an organization and every employee of what everyone is expected to be doing and why, and the benefits behind it.
Yep. Yeah, sounds good. So you're going to have a polling question, guys. Actually, we're asking you if you would like us to activate you a 45 days trial. So answer yes and no, and someone would actually follow up with you, qualifying the opportunity and activate. Zach, could you give maybe a recommendation how actually customer that listen here, how they should use these 45 days? What would be the best action plan for those guys to get the benefits, be sure that their organization sees some results, and actually figure out if QuickHelp can add the value to their organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, having access to this for 45 days is a huge benefit, and really the best way to realize that benefit is to look at that 45 days as a time for you guys to show a proof of concept, or let's call it maybe like a pilot program. However you want to look at that, you can say, let's take every employee we have, let's roll this out as if we're going to be using it permanently. Let's roll it for 45 days. And then let's look at the data, and look at the QuickHelp data as well as the graph Microsoft data, and see if there's an increase that makes sense after 45 days for us to just keep it permanently and just move forward with it. Another way that you could do it is you could take a subset of your company, however large or small your company is. You could take maybe 20% of your users and assign QuickHelp to that 20% in the same way, saying, we expect you to do this. There's communication around it. Give it to them as if you expect them to be using it, ongoing and forever. At 45 days, look at the data again and see if it makes sense to scale it from that subset user group to the whole organization permanently. So really look at that 45 days as a chance to really prove if QuickHelp is going to make a difference in your environment. But I will say that as part of that proof of concept period, it really kind of puts some ownership on you guys to work closely with your admins and also with your ShareWeb representatives to make sure that it's rolled out, with the right best practices. Like I mentioned earlier, a communication plan and so forth, so that the data you're gathering is very good, real data, as if people are actually using QuickHelp. We don't want to use a 45-day trial, to assign licenses to 10 or to 100 people, and then people never really get involved in QuickHelp because they weren't even sure QuickHelp was there in the first place, or the expectations weren't outlined correctly, right? That would essentially be kind of a waste of that 45 days when what we're really trying to do is see what type of value we can derive out of 45 days to see what it's going to look like long term.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's brilliant. I think I will close the poll unless some people still want to. Most of people replied. Okay, I think we're good. We answer most of the question. Yeah, someone was asking about the pricing. It's a $3 US, $4 Canadian. So actually, if you think about the budget for a year, it's a pretty cheap solution for the ROI that you can get, actually. Trying to see if we're missing anything. I think we're good, Zach.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Cyril, and thanks to everybody for taking the time out of your day to attend and watch this demonstration. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And for the one that they ask, about the licensing and so on, we'll follow up with you. If you didn't raise your hand, don't hesitate. You have our email here. We'll be very happy to reach out. I wish you a great day and see you soon. Thank you.